Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year. We will get the camera in order in just a second. I see a lot of comments in the section already, so hopefully you guys are doing well. Yes, of course, as per usual, that was my original track, Sunkissed, that I actually published or released rather 2019, May of 2019. So it's almost 5 years old now. So yes, let's talk about 2023 and 2024. And this is totally an impromptu stream. We'll go ahead and get rid of this banner, and then I will go ahead and get on camera. So cool. Hi, how's everyone? Go to the comments and see how you guys are doing. Got this little bang thing that just drives me crazy. I don't know why. So yeah, got a few people now. I'm actually surprised the turnout since it's 4. I have a family engagement a little earlier, around 6 or something. So I decided to do the stream a little earlier today. Don't know if I'm doing this permanently at 4. I don't know if that's a better time for most people. It's still going to be around 4 to 5. So we'll see how everyone is doing. Okay, good. Audio sounds good by my wonderful professor. And then also, he also says, looking great. Good, good. Yeah. And let me actually, I think that should be fun. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Let's talk about you guys. So we've got Professor Geek, Ready for Your Wisdom, my 2 new VL. I hope so. It's actually going to be an impromptu stream, probably not even talking about much. Not much. We're also welcoming Big Al. Have a great stream. Wishing everyone a very happy New Year. We also thank you, Big Al. I hope you have a good New Year too. Are you gonna stay up till midnight? You're gonna try to? We've got Ghost Team or Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0. Welcome. We've got Wolf 10 Media. It's been a while, my friend. I'm so glad you guys are you, because when I think of you, I think of like people you hang out with also on stream. Good to have you there. Hopefully you're having a new year, or hopefully 2023 has been good for you. Yeah, great. And then D Pensac, welcome. Happy New Year to you too, and all in the chat. We've also got Adiga Outlaw. Welcome to the stream. And Wolf 10, yeah, that's an old track. That's actually one of my first tracks that I released a while back. So you're gonna actually, I'm gonna do one quick thing here. I'll be right. I'm gonna move something around. All right, let's see what that looks like. Yeah. All right, that's a little bit better. Can't see my bang as much. OCD, you know. All right. Thanks for the you got this emoji, Wolf 10. Or yeah, I guess you'd call it an emoji. Final Fantasy is in. Welcome. Happy New Year to you too, Gigawatt, channel member. Thank you so much for joining. And we've got Joseph Johnson. Welcome. I haven't seen you in the chat before. Good to have you. And Andreas Hernandez with what's your new avatar? I don't know the reference. You'll have to tell me. It has like an atomic punk look, so maybe it's an older thing. All right. Oh, okay. So Wolf 10 says you can't stay for long. You have work the next day. Well, I'm sorry. Well, I teach for a couple hours tomorrow, but it's going to be a pretty laid back day. Okay. Well, you if I don't talk to you again, you have a wonderful New Year's Day. Yeah, yeah. Wolf 10 says, think of me as a group now, the UN Spacey Wolf Fleet. Yeah, exactly. I was like, there are like 5 or 6 of you, right? So good. All right, but good to have you again. Yeah, so hopefully you're doing okay. So yeah, we've got a good turnout. There's really not much I'm going to say. There's not really anything I've prepared. I just wanted to kind of talk about 2023, a little bit of Christmas. If you were at Prof stream last night, you saw some of the gifts that he gave. So the gifts that Fanman gave him, also what I gave him as far as Chuck. I was about to say Chuck Norris, Chuck Dixon. Oh, were we talking about Chuck Norris earlier today, Prof? I think we were. Um, and so I actually not too much for me. I had a wonderful Christmas. We celebrate Christmas Eve every year with the Alistair Sim Scrooge movie. You know, the Christmas. I call it the Christmas Carol because it's pretty iconic, an adaptation of the Christmas Carol. And then we go to midnight mass, which is wonderful. It's really just all around beautiful Christmas. Just Advent season, great Christmas. And for about a month before Christmas Eve, Prof was saying, "You're gonna love your Christmas gift. You're gonna love your Christmas gift." And I started. I think toward the end, like a few days before opening up the presents, I was thinking, "Man, he really is confident that I'm gonna like this so much." Because if you don't know anything about me, you probably do maybe know, but I'm pretty Spartan. Like if I had to choose between having a lot of stuff and having very few stuff, like living like a minimalist or whatever, I wouldn't be a crazy Spartan, but like I don't need a lot of stuff. My Christmas gifts, if sounds awful, but if I got a vacuum cleaner for Christmas, like if I needed one, that'd be awesome. I'd be so happy. You know, people are like, "Oh, that's so insensitive of you getting a vacuum cleaner for sound engravers." Like, well, if I needed it, I would love one, or like a rug doctor, you know. So I love functional gifts. But my prof actually did not give me a functional gift. This was a total recreational gift. He gave me. I wish I brought the box in, but whatever, because it's a nice looking box. He gave me the Nintendo Switch, so that was pretty great. I love the retro box, and I'm having a wonderful time with the retro box. But the Switch might be the console, at least for a few games. It might be the console. Like for a few months, I'll probably be on the Switch exclusively. So we got Mario Kart. Prof has beaten me a couple times. We tied actually. Well, we tied, but maybe he had one more coin last night, and then so he beat me. Uh, he's kind of competitive. I'm kind of competitive with Mario Kart. I realized though I can only play Mario Kart for probably a course, like for probably 15 minutes before I'm done. I can't keep holding the A down for the A button down for so long. Um, but in addition to that, I'm currently playing the Mario RPG, the Mario 7 Stars remake. He got that for me. And I would say we might actually just talk about games first. We'll do like an A tier. We won't do the S tier thing. I'm not that organized. We'll just put it in two categories: A tier and F tier or D tier or whatever it is. I mean, whatever the lowest tier is. So we'll talk about video games first that I did this year. So we'll actually just start with the remake. I'm only about, I don't know, 25% done of the game. It's a very good remake. It's pretty much frame by frame the game. Maybe people aren't interested in that, but it's very true to the original. There are a few script changes. There were some cultural references back in the 90s that I guess people wouldn't get today, so they took some of these references out. There are a couple lines that have been changed. Um, Sometimes for the better, but some changes I'm like, "Oh man, you could have kept that line. That's fine." Um, one instance is Mallow, the this mysterious magical creature in the game. Uh, you know, Mario's ready to take down an enemy, and Mallow in the old game says, "Who do you think you are, Bruce Lee?" And I thought that was the greatest line. You know, everyone, at least when I was growing up, everyone, even if you never watched a Bruce Lee film, you know who Bruce Lee is, probably what he looks like, or, how he fights or whatever. They totally took that out. Maybe they thought I was outdated. Maybe they should have said, like, "Who do you think you are, Mr. Miyagi?" So I'd stick with the Japanese name and stuff like that. I wish things like Bruce Lee, Mr. Miyagi, like they should still stay relevant, but they took out that line. Mallow's surrogate grandfather, Frogfucius, that's his name, Frogfucius. He's not named Frogfucius in this game. His name is Frog Sage, which is that's not a name. That's a position. That's a title. And so I wasn't crazy about that. He's always going to be Frogfucius to me. So there are some minor changes, but the play feels very, very smooth. They've added a couple new features. Some enemies that were crazy hard in the original are very easy in the remake, and then some enemies you wouldn't think, like, take, like, 2 swings, 2 hits, and then they're done. They just kept living, I was like, "How does this little mushroom" like, I've hit him, like, 8 times. He used to be hit just, like, 1 time or 2 times, and then he'd be done. But so some of the characters or some of the enemies are very different as far as level of difficulty. It's overall, I there's a breezy mode, which is probably really easy, and there's a normal mode. There's no difficult mode. I probably would have chosen that. It's if you know the game, if you know the original, it's pretty comparable to how it was before. And so I might do probably a walkthrough, not walkthrough, but kind of an analysis with some. I'd like to make a video about it because I think it's worth talking about at least into this next year. The cutscenes are really great. They look great. When you get the stars, that the animation is really beautiful and very cool. And so there are some good things to be had. The music is pretty much the same music, the same soundtrack, and I would talk about this on a separate video. I would like to do a separate video on this. It's pretty much the same music. The battle, the scenery, so whatever area you're in, it's the same music. The problem is the um the arrangement is very new Mario Nintendo. So if you're used to the very new Mario games, it's very much orchestrated with an orchestra. Or maybe it's subtle hints of the big band as you would hear with Mario Kart or something like that. And it's not all around bad, but I do miss the old synths, because some of Yoko Shimomura, she did a lot of great things with the limited bit rate information that were her synths. And I actually didn't even bother to check. I should have checked if she rearranged for this game remake. She did Kingdom Hearts, so she's very good with arranging orchestra. So I can imagine she was the one to do the arranging. I prefer the old, the music. The music is the same, it's just arranged differently. And I miss the old. There's a little bit more threat to the battle music with the old synths. Not as much with the new percussion and the new orchestra and the new strings, but all around the animation is really smooth. It's very easy on the eye. It feels great. The sound effects are great, and actually on sound effects, the Mario remake has the same, more or less the same sound effects, just remixed a little bit differently, or remastered rather, and sounds great. Sound effects is really good. So what would I give it? I would put it in the A tier so far from what I've seen. Maybe with maybe A minus B plus, with just some of the changes that they made, but all around it's a very enjoyable remake. So if you like the original, if you've ever played the original Mario RPG game, the 7 stars, I would give this a go. I think it's worth the money. It's a nice touch. They didn't deviate from the original at all. So yeah, I definitely give that game so far, and I just started it like last week. It's a short game anyway. The RPG is a very short game as it is anyway. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Uh, yes, at A tier, maybe take a couple points off for some of the changes. Um, on to games. So, what games did I play this last year? Secret of Mana was last year, the 2022. So I don't have to say that. I think, man, I don't think it's been a lot of games. I think I've been exploring more games. So the one game I'll give A tier is Terra Enigma. I played that game twice actually. I played it once by myself, and then I did a playthrough with prof watching, and I really just all around enjoy Terra Enigma. It's a pretty, it's as far as gameplay is concerned, it's pretty flawless for the time it was made. There are some weaknesses. The final boss is awful, but besides the final boss, maybe the last 2 bosses that you play, it's a very good it's a very good game. I really like Terra Enigma. The story is very poignant. it could have been better written, but it was like a product of the time. Like for 1996, it's pretty epic a story anyway. I had read an article, but this is just speculation. I was reading who was writing the article and stuff like that, and I was thinking, you're probably speculating more than anything. But because of the Mario remake, there's talks of different remakes of older games, and Terranigma was actually one of the things that came up, and I was like, would play I would play a Terranigma remake. Um, One other remake that is actually in the works, but this is, I think, for PlayStation, is Visions of Mana. Now, I did not care for Secret of Mana. I love the fighting of Secret of Mana, and I love the music. But apart from that, and the animation, some of the animation was really nice looking. But apart from that, like, um, I I would I would have a Secret of Mana remake with the story just really fully fleshed out and edited and stuff like that, because I Secret of Mana was one of those games I really, really wanted to like, and I just couldn't for different reasons, and mostly the story. But they're doing a Visions of Mana remake, and it's the original characters plus new characters, so it looks beautiful. Like, the animation looks wonderful. So there's that. So, but I hadn't played those games. So Terranigma, A tier. I tried Illusions of Gaia and also that first one, Soul Blazer. I tried. Those are the games they're of the Terranigma universe, or whatever you would call it, the Gaia universe. I couldn't get into it, so I didn't even finish it. So I wouldn't even rate them. And then I went back to Final Fantasy. I wanted to play the first Final Fantasy game. I can't get into it. There was about a month of just me going in circles and grinding really hard battles, and I'd probably have to see a walkthrough on YouTube before I would play it myself, because I got lost. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? There's no real direction. I'm kind of confused. So I was going in circles. So far the first Final Fantasy game is like, no. And then I was gonna play the second Final Fantasy game before I realized I got the Switch for Christmas. So I didn't really play a lot of games. I probably should play. We'll see how fast I go through other games. So Terranigma, A tier. Final Fantasy so far is kind of the first Final Fantasy with all the bugs in it. It's kind of D tier, C tier. So um, it was a good start, and I'm glad Final Fantasy continued. um, did I play Chrono Trigger? I think Chrono Trigger was last year. Yeah, Chrono Trigger is A tier. So that's games and all of that. Um, let's see. Looks like you guys are talking amongst yourselves a little bit. What else do I want to talk about? I guess we could talk about what's in. Oh, Final Fantasy mentions you could play Final Fantasy 1 and 6 on the Switch. I wonder if it's a lot more playable on the Switch. We'll check the library tonight. We've got like a 3-month membership thing where we can play through the games. I wanted to play the game I want to play is A Link to the Past on Switch. Um, I might give Final Fantasy 1 a go if it's much better on the Switch. Retro Box was a little rough. It was really rough around the edges. So thank you for the recommendation. Samuel Proctor, almost forgot you guys are 2 hours ahead of me. That's true. Yeah, you're mountain time. You're mountain time. That's cool. I hope it's beautiful over there, and it's probably still sunny over there. It's getting dark over here. Brian Gilbarton, Happy New Year to you too. You'll be driving for a bit, so you're inactive in the chat for a while. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. You can just tune in and see. We're just having a casual conversation today. I was gonna actually drink some sparkling cider, but I was kind of running late. Sparkling cider and then some stronger stuff later. Let's see. So yeah, actually, let's talk about just being creative this last year. So let me grab a sip of water. 2023 was a great year as far as life is concerned. um, I got married, so that's pretty much of the milestone of your life, right? Getting married. So 2023 is, in terms of just like life in general, has been wonderful. Um, I married the love of my life, Professor Geek, and it's the most natural thing to be with him every day, every week, and all of that. So that's been wonderful. Since we did get married, we had to plan for that big celebration that is a wedding, and with that, and I've talked to you about this before, probably in a couple streams. With that and working 2 jobs, I pretty much had very little time creating. I would I would create, I would compose, I would edit my music, I would add music, I would do all this stuff, and I would write. I wrote, but I haven't released anything. I released 1 single track this year, back in April, and I just didn't have time to release any more music after that. The music tracks that I want to release this year, I'm very excited about, but they are gonna be crazy involved. But I no longer work a retail job. I'm teaching, but teaching's gotten crazy. I mean, it's wonderful. It's, teaching music is a pretty comparably well-paid job. It's not a salary job, but the pay is pretty good. And so it's very good to keep getting more students. So I'm going to try to, manage my time between students, creative time, obviously family time, and then YouTube time. So 2024, I would really like to, dare I say, hustle it. I'd like to actually release a lot more music this year. In terms of creating, I do have a personal writing goal, and that is writing 10 short stories. I've written one. I'd like to finish another one within 2 or so weeks, and then 8 more stories this year to to publish. I would love to publish like a compilation of 10 short science fiction stories. These stories actually, I'm thinking these 10 stories will have to do with the world I'm building for my novel. I'm writing a novel. It's like a 4-part novel, a 4-novel series, so maybe 5 depending on the length. And I'd like to write short stories just to help, flesh out the world just a lot more. So there's that. So I'd like to actually publish short stories this year. That would be a wonderful goal. And maybe even if I had the gumption and if I have the time, maybe even a novella that is a sci-fi thriller. So getting that out of the way, and then maybe into 2025, getting into that year, trying to actually publish my novel length, or my novel. It's novel length and it's a novel. So I do have some writing goals as well. Now, um, that's the first thing. So with writing, I'd like to release some music, and these tracks are hefty, hefty. So I'm going to be mixing and mastering my own tracks this year. I did it for the April release, Second Chances. That was that was my master, and so I'm trying to learn the ropes with getting a really tight mix and a really tight master, and also recording violin. So it's going to be very busy. And then the next thing that I'm actually already on, yeah, I'm already starting. I have no idea how this is going to go, but I decided to really up the ante as far as my YouTube content. I with my 2 jobs and, paying and planning for a wedding, along with Professor Geek, who was we were we were, partners facing the same task together. I really didn't have time for YouTube other than live streams. And so I decided, and I didn't even plan this, like, not even 3 or so weeks ago. I decided, "You know what? Let's see what I can do this year with my YouTube channel." And I have no idea if this is gonna be the thing going forward. I'd like to give it between 5 and 8 months, maybe a whole year to see how this works. If it doesn't work, if it's taking away my creative time, I won't do it. But let's just see how it works. And basically what I've done, I've already done it, this last couple of weeks. I decided what they call batch content. And what that means is you actually record a handful of videos up front. And so I have recorded 4 videos that are commentary that will be scheduled for the month of January, and they're gonna be published, so a video every Friday at noon. So it's just commentary, just kinda like how you see me here, but it's on the phone, the audio's better, the camera's better, the lighting is better. You'll see me a little bit more, like, face to face instead of so far away, and so that's 4. That's 4. And then, in addition to that, I said, "Well, my channel's not just commentary. I wanna continue, pursuing music. I wanna continue pursuing SuperCollider." And so I also batched 4, SuperCollider recordings, last week, just me working in SuperCollider. I've got the first one scheduled already, for Mondays at noon, and it won't be just SuperCollider, it will also be Logic Pro, but just music-centric. And actually, it's probably gonna be 5 SuperCollider videos because, like, 3 of the 4 were, like, under 15 minutes. It was perfect. It was perfect length. The second video I recorded was, like, 26 minutes in length, and I need to divide it. I need to actually cut out, like, the first 15 minutes and then maybe do the next half, like, the very next day or something like that. So, basically, I have recorded, and I'm in the process of editing 8 to 9 videos for the month of January. It's a lot of work, especially with my editing, and, we'll see how this goes. What I wanna do is do everything up front for, like, the month of January. I wanna do the last week or so of December, and then I won't have to worry about YouTube for 3 weeks, and then do it again for the 4th week, and then have the month play out. I don't know how this is gonna go. It's it's a lot of work, and I feel like it might be worth it. It might not be worth it, but at the very least, at least for the month of January, my, my channel's gonna have, like, 8 to 9 extra videos on top of live streams, 'cause I would really like to, boost different things, like have personal monetary goals and stuff like that. But also, I love sharing my experimenting in SuperCollider. I have so much joy in something like SuperCollider. So that's gonna be for 2024 too. So now that I don't have a second job, I'm gonna try to put a lot more time into YouTube. And yeah, we'll see. There are some other projects in the making, but that's pretty much my goal for 2024 is release more music. I would like to publish short stories, and then I would like to also work a lot more on YouTube and give you guys much more content to listen to and stuff like that, in addition to live streams. Dwayne Asher, welcome. I love the video. Which one? I mean, the ones that I just did, they're set to private. They're set to schedule later. um, which video do you like? Do you like the phone video or the SuperCollider video? Yeah, I'm gonna do like it's gonna be like a 7 or 8 part series that I'm doing. I'm pretty excited about this SuperCollider thing. It's how to dynamically express sound files and drum kits. So should be good. For the first couple of videos, it's just me tinkering with oscillators and stuff like that. It might be boring. People might think like, what's the whole point of this? I'm like, no, there's point. You just gotta see other videos. So anyway, Final Fantasy fan says it's a lot better on the Switch. You can also play PS1 Final Fantasy games 7, 8, and 9. 10 and 12 is on the Switch? The PS1 games are on the Switch? Oh my gosh. Aw. Big Al says, I missed you doing a Christmas concert. Yeah, I didn't do one this year. And I could have. I think it was just a matter of being so tired after the wedding, and then also I did practice Christmas music for an event that I did do. I wasn't really paid that well for it, but I did it out of the kindness of my heart because it's Christmas. um, I would really for violin playing, for live stream violin playing, I would really like something better than StreamYard. Um, I'm gonna experiment with some camera work, and I'm also gonna experiment live streaming through YouTube when it comes to actual music, because the YouTube, not StreamYard, the YouTube is slightly better in quality. Not better in camera, but it's better in quality. And, the other thing too is I would like to get the miking right and then the camera right. I have a Canon camera. I have this old no, it's not that old. It's called the Rebel T6 camera, and I was kinda messing with it a couple nights ago. I don't have a tripod for it for streaming, but I got it to where it was focused enough where I looked like I was sitting in the same room as you. Well, like, it was weird because it's me in my room with me in my room, but it looked like I was just talking, like so imagine you seeing me, but the motion was almost as if you're in the room with me. It was still a little fuzzy with the lighting, but the motion of it was crazy, high fidelity. And so that would be really if that camera works for something like a live stream, I would like to do that. Yeah. Uh, Final Fantasy fan says from what you've done, 2023, writing more, good. That's good. Been doing a Final Fantasy marathon halfway through 6. So did you started with 1 then, and then you started, getting into Final Fantasy 14. Now is that an MMO? I don't know if I'm gonna do 14, and getting into more JRPGs. Um, yeah, it's great between Professor Geek and me, like, I am the RPG person, like, action RPGs, role-playing JRPGs. I like that. I like that kind of, world for the games, and he's more into kind of the story. I like it. Like, I love the format of Kingdom Hearts. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It's such a good-looking game. I love watching it. I don't even have to play it. I love watching it. It's like a game, but it's like a film. It's really, really good. And, and I think the Final Fantasy VII remake is that format where you're one character, and I think you can toggle between the different characters, which is great, but there's a lot more action and conversing and talking in the actual battle. It's not just you're on a platform facing an enemy, going to the enemy, striking the enemy, curing a person or something like that. It's a lot more, immersed. I wouldn't play the Final Fantasy VII remake until I would actually play the original. But it looks good from what I can tell. Andres Hernandez says, or Hernandez, got to say that surname a little better. Um, I'm thinking of releasing a comic next year, but I'm not sure where to release it. I don't know anything about comic books and the production of comic books. All I know is you have to, like, go to channels like The Fourth Age who, he's released a few comics, with campaigns and all that. Um, I mean, you might get some inspiration from Eric July, but I don't think he talks about the nitty-gritty, what goes into the comic book making. I think RJ from The Fourth Age is a little bit better about that. I wouldn't know what to tell you. I don't know anything about printing comics and hiring people and stuff like that. One thing I would like to do, I thought I release my music. I do my own album covers. I use Canva, and I get very sophisticated with my album covers. So for music, I don't need to hire an artist. I like the look of my covers. I'm pretty good about it. Um, there's something with music albums that you can kinda even go haphazard with album cover design, and people accept it if the music is good. There are some very ugly, ugly covers that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, but then there are some really good-looking covers, and I think you can even if I didn't use Canva, even if I did go to Adobe for that kinda stuff, I think I can make sophisticated album covers, and I thought I could do the same thing with Adobe Pro, getting some licensed images and stuff like that for my science fiction covers. That still may be an outlet in the future, but I feel like that's such a learning curve that I think I haven't made the decision, but I wouldn't I would say, let me say it this way. I think I'm going to kinda, um, scour the lands and scour the YouTube sphere and different social media and find artists who can do beautiful concept work for something like a short story compilation or even some images like even if it's something like having a campaign with my 10 stories and then like if you had something like with not just the stories but a beautiful concept piece like a sci-fi design for every story, you know, something like that. I would actually like to hire someone for that. Don't have the funds for that now, but it would be a worthy goal. I would love to be one of those artists that actually hired another artist. But the level of professionalism that I'm looking for would be very, very steep as far as the rate, you know, even the flat rate and stuff like that. I'm not just going to hire someone who's maybe year 3 or year 5 in their work, like, unless they're a prodigy. I'm thinking someone who's been in the profession for 10 to 20 years or whatever, like, seriously in their profession. It's just it means a lot to me to wanna hire an artist. Again, that's probably not a goal I have for this year, 2024, depending, I don't know. But at least kinda feel who can do some things out there. Because the level of quality I've seen, I'm not on Twitter anymore. I might get back on the platform just just to find these people, just to see where they're staying at. There was one guy, I forgot his name, but he was so good with sci-fi concept art. He was so good, and I knew like I know a concept piece from him. Like commissioning him would be like an easy $2,000 or something. Hernandez says, "My comic would probably be a digital first and maybe down the line it could be printed. I plan on releasing the issue chapter at least every month." Oh, that's I would say that's a good idea. Those digestible goals. Oh yeah, absolutely. An example of producing comics is like I like is Dan Fun. I'm not sure who that is. Uh might check that out real quick. Hello, Amiel. Happy New Year to you too. See if this works. Oh, I can see that. Yeah, yeah. Let me go on the Twitter, which I'm not on. Um, yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, good there. Very nice. Anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of been me for 2023 and 2024. I don't really have resolutions other than I need to if I want to keep up my exercising, I would like to walk 5 times a week, 3 miles a day. So when Prof and I walk together, or even when we're by ourselves walking, depending on our schedules, um, we walk about 3 miles a day. It is a little harder in the summer because it's so oppressively hot, but we still try to. And because of my 2 jobs I had, I just couldn't walk more than twice a week or 3 times a week. So I'd like to do it 5 times a week. But even with my teaching schedule, there will be some days where I just have to either get up just earlier or just force myself to walk earlier. So that's pretty much the resolution I have. Did you guys have any New Year's resolutions? So it's more a goal than anything. I did wanna say one thing too, though, and I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but you know how people make fun of other people, like, you know how people make fun of, other people going to the gym for a month or 2 before they quit going to the gym, and they get made fun of for that because it's like, "Oh, you're not all in, you're not pushing it for the whole year," and stuff like that. I used to be one of those people that made fun of the January what were they called? I forgot what they're called. There's actually a cultural term for them, but you know, the people going to the gym for just January. And then I thought, you know what? I think I would be more like them. I'm not going to the gym myself. I don't go to the gym, but like I think I'm more like them for one reason. I would just be happy dropping off all the weight of the holiday goodies that I've had. So it's like I don't have to be a certain I mean, I guess it's always good to keep tone and be a certain weight and stuff like that. But I think the whole January thing going to the gym is just so to lose all that holiday weight and all that, the trimming and toning up from what you were before October. Like I would be happy being my September form. And so I would be fine with going, like, hypothetically going to the gym for January just to shave off all the holiday stuff. And I think that's what it is. I think most people are like, "No, I'm going to the gym just to shed all the holiday stuff. I'm not going to the gym to better myself for the year." And so, I don't know, that was just a thought I had. I'm kind of more sympathetic to the January people. That said, Prof and I actually walk, um, yeah, like 15 miles a week. Yeah, is kind of the quota that we've been making. So it's been good. And it's kind of rough terrain where we are, where we walk around the property and they're downhills and they're uphills and it's pretty good. It keeps us healthy. Ace, welcome. Good to see you. You say New Year's Eve, another pointless day where I accomplished nothing. Yeah. I had like a couple days off where I didn't do much, but I just always like to work, whether it's just composing or doing something. So anyway, um, hmm, I think that was everything I had to say about the New Year's. I mean, unless you guys wanted to talk about something else, I didn't really have anything else planned. Talked about 2023, talked about 2024. I mean, again, going back to my YouTube channel, I don't know how successful this batching thing is gonna go. Like, I'd like to batch, like, 8 videos, for 1 week out of the month, get all the recording done in one sitting, and then edit it and then put it out. So, it would be nice to have an average of 10 to 12 videos a month on my channel. That'd be awesome. But we'll see how it goes. It's gonna happen in January. We just hope it happens in February too. I already have my uh my commentary ideas for February. Oh, books. Let's talk about books. Let's talk about books. Um, let's talk about A tier books. Okay, so how much did I read this year? I can't remember. I didn't write this down. I should have. So, Professor Geek was talking about the historical fiction trilogy by Newt Gingrich, which was the To Try Men's Souls, Valley Forge, and Battle of Yorktown, or just Yorktown. I can't remember the last title of that third book. It's as far as historical fiction, it's very well done. It's very well written, and it's wonderfully paced, and you just understand the heartache and a little bit of what was going on with the American Revolution, not just with the actual war itself, but the camaraderie, the building and losing morale, people who were loyalists, to the British, the Tories, and their conflicts, but also people who were for the revolution, who their stuff, all their livestock and all their stuff just purged and wiped out because people would either now George Washington was not for this. He was not for people forcing farmers to give stuff to the soldiers for food. Um, but yeah, just understanding the conflict with that, like the British would, scavenge and take livestock. Some bad apples in the American Revolution would take some livestock. Some bad apples in the American Revolution would get very bloodthirsty because they were so tired of the war that they created within themselves a personal vengeance against any British soldier, and they would do terrible things to them. They would hang them gutlessly. Just all that. We got the Hessians that were also brutal, militaristic people from Germany, and a lot of just real hard times. And Gingrich really conveys those hard times very, very well. The audiobook is wonderful. I will say this. My favorite okay, I like all the books. My favorite's actually the middle book, Valley Forge. I understand, like, the depth, almost the depths of despair that these men and these people, are facing, and just the dead of winter, no help from Congress, you know, the ever patient George Washington and all that. Um, the production is really good. The reading of the books is really, really good. I loved listening to them, during my commute home because I drive in the country, and sometimes at night you just gotta have to listen to something to keep your eyes on the road and stuff like that. Um, but the first book was well written. What I would say is this would put it on B tier territory. So all of it's A tier in my mind as far as historical fiction is concerned. Um, but the first book is it's well written, but there was something I could not get past. But Newt Gingrich wanted his wife to voice the women, especially Martha Washington, and she had the most canned performance. It was so bad. It was just, "All of you, just stop it." It was so bad. And then it pulled me out of the moment. I wanted the reader, I forget his name. It's actually on my phone, but I'm not gonna pull it up. You guys can find it on Audible. Um, he was great, and he did the women's voices fine. Like, all the women he did for the subsequent stories was wonderful. It was really good, and actually, he did Martha Washington, the character in books 2 and 3. I was a little nervous that I forget Gingrich's wife, her name starts with a C, I'll always forget, but, she didn't come back the 2nd and 3rd books, and I was kinda relieved. Here's my take. Men can really read women if they're very good at vocal acting, voice acting, or just good readers. They can do girls, they can do women very, very well. They don't need to bring in actual women to play the actors. And the reason why they can, and it's a vocal thing too, it's a purely anatomical thing. Women's ranges are just higher. And so for us to sound like men, we can't actually try to sound like men because we can't. We just can't drop our voice in that register. Men, however, whether with falsetto or just the ability to pitch their voice up without sounding shrilly, they can actually voice women very, very well. So the reader, I don't know if Professor Geek is near his phone, and maybe he can put the name of the reader down for this, but he was great. He was wonderful. So all in all, it's an A tier trilogy. It's an A tier. I want to call it a trilogy. Well, no, that's not true. I would call it a trilogy because it's in the order of events: Trenton, crossing of Delaware, Valley Forge, and then Yorktown. So it's I'd put it A tier. Also A tier this year, Darth Plagueis. I so enjoyed Darth Plagueis. I have read about 8 EU pieces now, eight EU stories. Darth Plagueis has so far remained my favorite. The others are good too, but Darth Plagueis is I mean, apart from a couple things that I wouldn't have preferred, Darth Plagueis is crazy A tier. It's great. A plus. Thank you, Professor Geek. So the reader of the Newt Gingrich historical trilogy is William DeFree. Is that how you pronounce it? But it's printed for you just in case. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but one more time for your for you for you guys for your education. Yeah, I mentioned in the chat, Professor Geek's chat last night. I mentioned that uh what I mentioned. Oh, if you wanted to write a war hero, like a war hero or like a general as your protagonist, I would, even if it's fantastical, even if you have a sci-fi military in the works or something, read the condition that George Washington faced as a general. Read all the other back and forth between other generals. If you want to write a general, go to the historical fiction if it's really well written, and I highly recommend that historical trilogy for such a purpose. So Andreas Hernandez, I did not read or listen to Dark Empire, so I know nothing about it. Sorry. So I actually know nothing about that story, so I can't tell you whether I'd like it or not. Um, so Darth Plagueis is A tier. I recently read Revan, the novel Revan, and I would say it's also A tier. It's very well structured. You know, Professor Geek was talking about how people would criticize it because you're really with the antagonist. You're really with this up and coming Lord Scourge Sith character for a lot of the book. Like half of the book, if not more. I think he has a little bit more screen time than even Revan. But Revan is there for most of the book. Then you get a little bit of the perspective of Mitra toward the end, a little bit of perspective with Bastila. But Bastila is just waiting, you know, for him to come back. I will say it's very well written. The climax at the end is very, very good, in my opinion. And there were things at the end I was not expecting, and I teared up a little bit. And it's such a wonderfully produced story, the Audible book, because because of the sound effects, the voice acting is amazing. And actually, Prof, if you want to put the voice acting too, I should have just written this down so I had a better prep for the stream. Drew Karpyshyn is the writer, but I don't know who the voice actor is. He did it wonderfully. He did uh, Lord Scourge wonderfully. He did uh, Setchel, who's kind of the scheming antagonist. Um, Darth Nihilus was wonderfully done. Uh, Revan, Bastila is great. Bastila is Bastila from the games, totally. Mitra is also wonderfully done. I mean, it's all one man. He's doing all these characters, and he did it fabulously. And he also reads in a way where when it's very very much action, like maybe someone is like pulling something, and he'll actually read it like he's pulling it himself. Even with Revan stretching, you know, from sleeping after a hard battle, he'll say, "Oh, Revan stretched" or something. That could be overdone. I wouldn't prefer it myself, but he's a very good reader. And then I teared up. I teared up at the end. Um, it was it's very heartfelt, knowing what happens. I think it's a great story. I think it's to me it's personally it's canon with what happens with Knights of the Old Republic. Now that I know the first two games, and I like it, even though it's kind of gut wrenching in some of this. So but apparently to Professor, I was like, "That's the end? That's what happens to Revan? Oh." And he's Revan, like, the whole time. He's like he's superhuman hero. Like, he's crazy powerful in the Force, and what he goes through is so heart-wrenching at the end, and I'm like, "That's what happens?" But apparently, according to Professor Geek, there's more. So, one second, let me grab something, and I'll be right back. Actually, actually, I wasn't grabbing something, I was just checking something. But anyway, hello Cloudface. Good to see you. And we've got Lynn Green too. You say listening to Dark Empire so I could listen to the book study. I'll get the stream tomorrow or Tuesday. So far behind. I probably won't catch up with the what Al and Prof are doing. The radio dramas. I'm busy listening to something else right now. I might as well talk about it because it's gonna be a very controversial video, and it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, actually, I'll be talking a lot about science fiction again this year. Reading more classics. Oh yeah, let's continue with books, and then I'll finish my thoughts on Red Rising, I guess. Um. So, well, we had Darth Plagueis, Revan, I would call A tier as far as production and quality of writing. Um, Newt Gingrich historical trilogy, that is also good. What is making the F tier in my experience? And I did a stream on this, so this is no surprise. But Dan Simmons' Hyperion. That book has a cult following. It's been famous for like what 30 years now, and I'm going to say this very start with positive. There's a lot of potential with the world of Hyperion. A lot of great world building dynamics between this enigma, this mysterious, threatening, evil enigma that is the Shrike, the presence of AI and how their world is constructed, and even just the planets themselves and the different. It feels so diverse as far as planets and worlds. I love the look of Hyperion. I can get the feel of Hyperion, but the writing is crap. There are only 2 exceptions to the writing, maybe 3, like 2 A tier short tales. Well, they're not that short. They take actually about a night to read. They're like they're like novelette length. There are 2 tales that are superbly done, like A tier, A plus, S tier. Actually, one was completely S tier. It was so good. It was so well done, so heart-wrenching. I cried. Wonderfully done. 2 tales out of the 6 short tales that are wonderfully done. One was a horror tale. Freaked me out. Well written, but it freaked me out. There's a little bit of an antithetical mockery of Christianity in it. But it's also a horror short story, so I can see where things would be really changed antithetically toward the Christian symbolism. It's not crazy in your face, antithetical to Catholicism. I do know that the subsequent Hyperion novels are crazy, unabashedly a mockery of the Catholic Church. Like, unbelievably so. Like, incredibly so. But I'm not reading those books. Why? Because, apart from those 2 tales that were great, the other tales were, like, B tier, C tier, and then some were F or D tier, whatever it is, whatever those tiers are. And then the narration, like F minus, like the narration between the characters and all of that, just bad. Okay, no, I'll give that one an F. And then the cliffhanger, F minus 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 minus. That cliffhanger was such crud. It was I want to say crud because I'm thinking of a stronger word in my head. It was so it was as if I was reading the book and then Dan Simmons appears with a bucket of cold water. And right when I'm turning to the last paragraph, over to the last page, I read it, and then he splashes ice cold water on my face. It's absurd, it's ridiculous, and apparently it's a cliffhanger, and then you don't even go to the very next thing in the next book. He has you hang out in some new character's perspective. I'm like, well, that's bull. So Hyperion was F. I don't know if F tier is a thing, but I'm gonna just say it's a thing right now. I'm like kind of boomer millennial right now. A tier, F tier. I'm gonna call that. So it was F minus. Hyperion. People praise it to the skies. They're like, it's amazing. It's like, no, man, it was horribly written book. He was so great with short stories. He was so great with 2 of those short tales, but man, it's horribly done. So Hyperion, not good. That was my not good for 2023. I was expecting a lot more since it's been famous for what 2 or 3 decades. What else? Oh, I reread the Foundation trilogy. I'd give it like a B tier. It's a very solid trilogy, and I really like it a lot. There are things that are not to my fancy as far as being a modern day reader, and by that I mean I do prefer more introspection from my characters. But for what the Foundation trilogy is, what it's about, it's good. I would give it a B. It's a B tier. Now, the subsequent books, I just finished Foundation's Edge, and it took me forever to get that last book. I'm reading the last book right now. So Foundation's Edge, I would give it a B tier, like a low B tier. I like the story, but I just don't like the trajectory where it went from the Foundation trilogy. I think it's not breaking rules per se, but it should have been its own story separate from the Selden plan, separate from the first and second Foundation. Now, pretty much you are in the perspective of first and second Foundation in Foundation's Edge. And I love the culture, that this weird, scheming, mysterious culture of the second Foundation. I love it. It was great. And then Stor Gendable, he's one of my favorite characters of the whole universe, of Asimov's universe. He's very interesting. Then it came to this really weird, I would say even anticlimactic end that I just didn't appreciate. Now we're following up the end in this next book I'm reading, which is called Foundation and Earth. And I'm going to say this right now. Foundation and Earth, the final stage of this world of Harry Seldon and his Seldon plan and the first and second Foundations. Okay. Right now, it is a C, probably D tier book. I'm like on page 200, and all the stuff that I'm reading could have been condensed to like the first 60 or 70 pages. It is infuriatingly slow. And Asimov probably did not have an editor for this last book, because he just goes on these scholarly philosophical diatribes that I get the point. I get the point. I get the point and the perspective and the positions of all the characters involved. I don't need philosophy. I don't need people arguing. That was a popular thing, probably in the 70s and 80s. Him and Asimov and Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune. Frank Herbert wrote this novel. I mentioned it before. It's crud. It's just crud. It's D tier sci-fi, but it's called the Worship series. And I only read the first book. I'm not bothering with the other books. Basically, a ship that you're on becomes sentient, and he wants to be God, and you have to worship him or whatever. Sounds interesting, but it's so poorly written. And the first book is called Destination Void, and it's basically it's shorter than most of sci-fi books, but it's too long because it's basically four people arguing with each other for the whole length of the book. They're just arguing technology and philosophy and stuff like that, and they don't like each other. It's like four people fighting in a spaceship. They don't like each other. They're annoyed by each other. I'm annoyed as a reader with them. And it's a lot more palatable with Foundation and Earth with Asimov, but he's still kind of the same. And so I'm going to finish the book. Now, apparently, the premise is setting up a really big, strong reveal revolving Earth. No spoilers. I haven't finished it. If you've read it. And it better be good, because the setup is very lame. The setup is very lame. It's deviated from the first and second Foundation. Asimov had great potential. He could have expanded the worlds of the first and second Foundation for more books. And he's not. It's like 30 years later, after publishing the Foundation trilogy, he's like he was bored with the idea. He's like, "Oh, I want to go back to my robots." I'm like, "Don't you have another series of robots?" So robots are inferred with this last book, which is fine. I'm fine with robots being in the Foundation universe. But I tell you that the reveal that the premise is setting up has to be really good. So far, I'm 200 out of 500 pages of the book, and I'm going to say it's C tier. It's C tier. So I've had some very good books for 2023, not so great books that I thought were gonna be good, they're not good. Um, and that's it. Yeah. That's it as far as books. I'm a very slow reader. I don't read as fast as my prof. So if my prof next year has like a whole slew of stuff he's read, I'm probably gonna read a fraction of that. But in my defense, I read the sci-fi stuff I do read, they're they're crazy long-winded. So we'll see that. Um, Happy New Year to you too, Lance, the film guy. Good to see you. Now, let's see. So no spoilers, I guess, on the Revan stuff because I haven't seen or read all of it. So I probably will not look at some of the chat. So you guys can talk just amongst yourselves there because I don't know what happens. You know, I know what happens at the end, but we'll see. Very interesting. Yeah, I still recommend the book. I like it a lot. Um, just one more thing on books. So I I'll be talking about this on one of my commentary videos for this January, but you know that's not for a few weeks, so I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit. But if you guys aren't aware, for my stream or not stream for my short videos, there's this evergreen video, this short. I just go on a rant. I didn't even know this was going to get so much traction and guff. I guess I'm getting like a lot of pushback on this short. But I'm averaging 300 to 1,000 views on my shorts. Sometimes 1,700, sometimes 1,800, and if I talk about something extra controversial, it's like 2,500. But I never get really evergreen shorts. So when I say evergreen, it's kind of a term people use for content creation. It keeps getting views. No matter how old it is, it just keeps getting views. And it's getting views from people that don't like me. And I'm gonna leave it up. But basically, this evergreen short that I created a couple months ago is about the Red Rising stories. And you know, I read the book Red Rising, the first book, about 8 years ago. So I have some memory of it. And I remembered the first 5 or so chapters being very, very good, very well written. And then I remember it tanking in quality. So this was my memory. Now, I got so much pushback and people are just and I didn't want to delete the short. I don't like to delete anything even if it has a really bad you know, people calling me crazy or odd or something like that. I don't want to remove this short. But it got me thinking, I'm like, you know, maybe I misremembered this story. Maybe I'm being too hard on this story based on what I remember of the story. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to go to the library and read the hardcover again because I'm reading other hardcovers or paperbacks. I don't want to read it. But sometimes I walk by myself and I'm like, you know what? I'm sure this is on YouTube as an Audible book. And so I'm reading the Audible book of Red Rising just to make sure I'm remembering everything correctly from 8 years ago. And it turns out, yes, I am remembering things correctly from 8 years ago. And also things I didn't remember that I didn't consider that makes the book even worse. Now, I will say, the Audible book, I don't know who is reading this. You can find on YouTube, just YouTube, Red Riding Red Riding? Red Rising, that's kind of funny. Freudian slip there. Red Rising Audible book. And the reader who reads this, he's very good. And he makes very drab lines sound very, very good. He's a very good actor. He's a very good reader. And I think he's Scottish, or if he's not Scottish, he's kind of giving. There are a couple characters he's reading with a Scottish accent, but I don't think it's Irish. I can't even remember now because I'm not really paying attention to his accent. I'm paying attention to the words he's reading. It's either Scottish or accent. Forgive me, I'm forgetting right now. But he's good. Like he's a very good reader, and he is making the world and the entertain. He's very entertaining, and I will say the his reading of the first few chapters, or the first 5 chapters, or 6 or 7 chapters, is actually very good. I'm immersed in the world. I think it's great. As I remembered, I'm like, "This is a very good premise. This is a very interesting world and concept." Even if it's not, people complain that that Red Rising is not original in concept. I actually don't care about that. You don't have to be completely original, but as long as you're interesting, it's fine. Now we've come to the kind of where we're getting the protagonist established in the world he's trying to, you know, rebel against. And I'm already see, even with the great reader, I'm already hearing a decreasing of quality as far as the world is concerned. But more than that, and this is gonna be its own separate video, and it's probably gonna get a lot of flack, and I don't care. I've gotta say my 2 cents. But this Red Rising series has developed its own following. Like, it's like Pierce Brown is like Zack Snyder of the sci-fi world. And so if you criticize Red Rising, shame on you. You're odd, you're crazy, you don't deserve to be on YouTube and stuff like that. And I can take it. I kind of have a little fun with certain people and naysayers and stuff like that. I shouldn't. It's kind of petty, and I'm not mean. Like, I'll respond to what they say, and I'll say, hey, here's what I think about it. But they try to attack me a little bit more. They might, if they this is a short video. If they listen to a long video, they might have a problem with it. Um, all this to say, I do have a point with saying this, is that even with the first few chapters being well written and well read by this Audible book, um, there is a lot of moral bankruptcy with the characters. What I did not see was a morally deprived decision. The last time I read it is completely morally deprived. The martyr figure of the book is not a pure martyr. She didn't die because of a good cause. Well, she thought she died for a good cause. And I'm going to explain it in my commentary video when I post it February. But the martyr was not in any way a hero. In fact, she does something incredibly selfish in her death. Incredibly selfish. It is absolutely reprehensible. And I didn't read that for the first time. I'm like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that was a good martyr scene," or whatever. It is a well-written martyr scene. I'm not gonna take that, from Pierce Brown, but he's, like, 22 or 23 at the time of writing it or whatever, and, maybe this martyr, her pure nature, maybe it's brought to light in other books. I hope so. I'm not gonna read it myself. But the true nature of her martyrdom is crazy dark, and it's crazy evil, and whether she thinks it's evil or not, or whether the reader thinks it's evil or not, I gotta bring this up. Maybe the writer Prince Brown, maybe the writer Pierce Brown at the time of writing didn't think she was morally reprehensible, but now that I listen to it again, I'm like, "Oh!" And then her death is the backbone of the whole uprising, at least going forward with the first book, and it's awful. She does something crazy, crazy selfish, something no person should do, and it involves her spouse, it involves her husband. So I'm gonna actually talk about that in another video. It's gonna be its own separate video because I wanna talk about science fiction. I think science fiction should not only be well written, it needs to have the human spirit and heroism in it. Science fiction is my favorite genre, but it's one of those genres where there is a lack of heroism. There's a lack of heroes. There's a lack of good people. Usually, most of the protagonists might have a greater good in mind, but there's also personal gain and depravity and selfishness and decadence and even the stories I really like, there's just not the heroism that maybe you guys understand from reading comic books or something like that. And so Red Rising is a problem. And it's like at the forefront of all science fiction today. People say it's the greatest thing in the world. It's like it's the best science fiction in the world. These guys who are such defendants of Red Rising, this is Ahsoka all over again. Like my critique of Red Rising has brought up about like this, like, how dare you criticize the most amazing sci-fi story? It's still my favorite. It's like, you probably haven't read a lot of sci-fi, or you're probably 15 years old. Now, maybe you're 50 years old and haven't, maybe you've not read sci-fi or something like that. But I want to find, like, this is my personal mission as someone who loves sci-fi, but also someone who believes is important. Just realize how orange that light is. Dang, it looks like crazy orange now. I don't know why. Maybe that was the first time I noticed. But anyway, I want to develop a very good marriage of good sci-fi, good science fiction with morally constructed characters. Not every character has to have a moral backbone, but I do see crazy utter depravity, and basically the moral bankruptcy to instigate this uprising against an oppressive regime. This is Red Rising. They're going to try to usurp the system from within. But to instigate that is a very wicked and abominable thing that I would have no one do. Like, it's not enough to die for a good cause. You cannot be evil about it. If you want to die for a good cause, you need to do it uprightly. You need to do it with goodness in your heart. You setting someone back to wreck their soul, with the potential of wrecking their soul, so you can die for a good cause, you might as well stay alive. You might as well stay alive. Like, martyrdom is not, that's the first time I saw martyrdom done evilly, and all to usurp an oppressive system. And it's like, well, you don't have any moral backbone to do that. You have to be different from your enemies to be the hero. And so far, I'm not seeing it. Anyway, that's my tease on Red Rising. So I will have a full-length video on this. I will be ranting about the book. And I'm looking forward to all the Red Rising defendants. Maybe they won't see my long form. But yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. Brian Gilmartin says, let me guess, she cheats on her husband. I'm not saying cheating is better than what she did, but what she did, I'm not saying it's better, but what she did is horrible. I can't wait to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it though. No, it's not cheating on her husband. No. It's um it's subjective when I say this. In some ways it's a little worse than that. It's a little worse than that. But I know cheating is really bad. Yeah, I can't, but I'm not gonna say it. So anyway, you'll have to wait until February. What's Valentine's Day this year? Okay, it's it's on a Wednesday. It's on a Wednesday. And those commentary videos are on Fridays. It might be Wednesday that I do that. I'm not sure. So anyway, well, actually that went by a lot faster than I thought. So I actually have I'm going to call my sister within the next hour or so. So I'm going to get ready for that. But anyway, that's it. Yeah, I think. Oh, Brothers Crin, welcome. I'm only in here for a few minutes just to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year's to you too. So I think we'll end it there. So to be looking out for future things, I will have a video posted this Friday. So that will be my first commentary video this Friday. I'll have SuperCollider videos coming up on Mondays, commentary videos coming up on Fridays, and then we'll live stream. So I might have a topic or two next time. So we'll go ahead and be on the lookout for that. But anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year's Eve. A wonderful New Year's Eve and a happy New Year. I'm personally looking forward to 2024. People say, "Oh, it's good. It's going to be the end of the world." Like, I'm excited. Bring it on. Bring on 2024. So anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the earlier stream, and I will see you next week. Happy New Year. If I can end the stream. There we go.